So the usual start to an expedition: kayaks to unload, lots of gear to pack from lots of IKEA bags, essential snacks for those paddling, start the GPS and check it's working, and the obligatory farewell photo. And then we were off. Soon to be just a few specks in the distance, paddling towards the horizon. Conditions were perfect as we headed out with the ebb tide behind us. Just an oil rig boat to steer around in the channel. Some interesting tidal waves over the shallows as we left the channel, although I didn't get any really good footage of it. Then it was just straight down the coast to about the 30-kilometre mark. We stopped at Rabbit Island for a lunch break. A very nice spot for a lunch break. Things were going well. On the next leg, we came across quite a few of these little birds, totally unperturbed by our presence. And saw just the one seal. Conditions had deteriorated a bit with a headwind, and progress was slower than we'd anticipated at lunchtime. But eventually we made it into the Refuge of Refuge Cove, probably about an hour later than expected.
I'm better than I thought it would be. You must be loaded much more heavily than me or something.
Yeah. I just kept the water, I think.
I didn't see that.
So, quick rundown on Refuge Cove. As you come in, we landed right at the middle of the beach opposite the steps. A sign that said no camping without permit. There's actually much better access over at this corner of the beach. The boaties camp is sitting in about here where I'm waving at present, and there's a track leading back around the river to the hikers camp in here. Fresh water available where the hand is now, and the stream runs out to the ocean, and you can rinse things out a bit, get a bit of the salt out of your clothing. Telstra, your mobile phone reception, you'll probably get something up on this rock here, which is not a very long walk away. And yep, that's about it. The view back out to sea, the boaties camp, and a walk through from the boaties camp back to the beach, past the famous signs. I don't have a GPS track of the path we paddled, but this line in Google Earth is pretty much what we did. The little bit of interesting tidal action over the shallows was just here. Just short of 30k is our lunch stop at Rabbit Island. And then the next section was a bit windier and choppier, as you saw from the footage. The last section, trying to paddle past Sealer's Cove here, seemed to take an awful long time, but eventually got into Refuge Cove. So that should have been day one, and it was and it wasn't. The grey track highlighted here is the one I had highlighted in Google Earth, somewhere around 45 kilometres. Unfortunately, when we got to Refuge Cove later than we expected, we had only one good day of weather left that might have got us to Hogan Island, but probably stuck there for a week of bad weather. We actually ended up returning to Port Welshpool to resupply, and this track is our second day one, if you like. So here we are in Port Welshpool, really small place and not an awful lot to do if you're stuck there for a long time. Caravan park down the centre of town, and way up the other end of this road, the pub and the Port Welshpool store, only places you can buy food in town. And the nearest resupply for like kayaking food is, well, nearest supermarket half an hour's drive away, and there's no public transport. So it's something to be aware of if you're going to be stuck there for a week. Nice walk along the jetty and some interesting history. Very shallow area to launch over. You won't leave on the ebb tide anyway, so you want to be taking off at high tide. When we actually came back from Refuge Cove, we ended up arriving towards low tide, and it was quite a haul to get the gear back to the caravan park. The thing I haven't mentioned yet is that Brody injured some tendons above his wrist on the trip back to Port Welshpool. It was a freak accident, packing his kayak and his wrist bent back awkwardly. This was a test paddle we did one day during the week to see whether he thought it would hold up for the Bass Strait crossing. And unfortunately, the decision was that it wouldn't. So it was a very different feeling the second time we set off, just Andrew and me. It was also a very different foggy morning. We couldn't see from one channel marker to the next. There's no video of this second trip to Refuge Cove because I couldn't get the GoPro to switch on. But it was quite different to our first trip. Once we made our way up the channel and tried to turn to follow our previous route to Rabbit Island, we found it impassable with lots of randomly breaking waves, and looking at the GPS chart made it fairly obvious why. We were sitting in only about 3 metres of water, and so we made a radical change of course, headed out to the deeper water, and sort of only felt comfortable when we got out to around the 6 to 10 metres. There were some exciting bits through this section where we paddled frantically to get over a wave before it broke, and I do remember Andrew saying something along the lines of, "This crossing Bass Strait has got knobs on it." But anyway, we got out to the smoother water, and then it was a pretty straightforward trip to Refuge Cove, except obviously no nice break at Rabbit Island, and it ended up being about 48 kilometres. But we made it and had a couple of days in Refuge Cove waiting for our next weather opportunity.